Hey, so how do we know when we should build another school? Okay, how do we know? How do we know that? So, Hays CISD wants to build another school, and we put a measure on the bond to do that. So, the election's going to be May 1st, 2021, and you can get more information at hayescisd.net/bond 2021. Also, if you go to my website, willieforeducation.com, WILLIE for education.com, you can sign up for my newsletter and I'll keep you apprised of things that are going on with that bond. So how do we know if we should build another school or not? Let me give you a little bit of an outline on how we go about doing that. So Hays CISD regularly gets these reports from a demographer. A demographer is an organization that helps predict lots of things, but it looks at population growth in the Hays CISD boundaries and helps us determine where the growth is happening, when it's going to happen, how much we're going to get. So they literally keep tabs on things like housing starts. They keep track of subdivisions that are going to be built and when they're going to be built and the size of those homes. So there's a certain assumptions that they're going to be making. So, if you have an apartment complex, for example, a lot of one-bedroom apartments aren't going to hold, families. But if you get to 2 and 3 bedroom units, they're going to hold families. So there's some assumptions made about how many kids will probably be in those bedrooms based on, how many bedrooms there are in those apartments. Similar to houses too, the bigger houses usually mean houses with kids, and so they make assumptions there, and they're pretty accurate. So we use the demographer to help us determine how many people are moving to this area and how many people are likely to be school age. So if you're like in Hays CISD right now, in Kyle, for example, last time I checked, the average age for a person in Kyle was in their childbearing years. So it's very likely most people that live in Kyle are going to have they're in the years where they're having children and they're raising children. So anyway, so we keep tabs on that, and we know how, based on an attendance zone, how many kids are likely going to be there this year, next year, the year after, etc. It helps us determine when we should be building other schools. So to build another school, we have to go before the voters. So we put a measure on a ballot, on a bond proposition to get the money to purchase that school, to build that school. And the cost of schools, is going to vary by location. So, obviously this is a hot market right here, and it's hard to get people it costs money for construction and materials here quite a bit because there's a lot of things that are getting built here. So that's going to drive the price of schools up. Other things that drive school price are obviously the concrete, the square footage, how big they are, different types of facilities, different schools, the types of facilities you put within the school is going to vary the cost. A classroom space, for example, is considered one of the cheaper parts of the building to build because it's pretty easy to build. It's some walls and continuous floor space. But if you get, when you build bathrooms, when you build science laboratories, those are more expensive because they have more electricity, more plumbing, etc. So those parts of the building cost more money. But you get an average price for square foot, and then you make an estimate of the cost and you put it on the bond, and you go from there. So at hayescisd.net/bond 2021, you can get information about the school that we're proposing to build, which is in the first proposition, Proposition A, and other items that are on that bond also. So this is Willie Tenorio Jr., Hays CISD Trustee, District Number 2. What else might you want to know about building the new school? If you have a question, hit me up here in the comments while I'm live and I'll try to answer it. Other things to know, about the bond that I think are important. I think everything on that bond is important, but there's a few things I want to highlight to you. There's a lot of items on there to help us with upgrading and repairing some of the older buildings, because we have a lot of older school buildings, and they need new roofs, they need new HVAC systems, they need updated fire alarm systems, and so that's on the bond too. We have multiple propositions on this bond, and so you'll see different things. We have a proposition for technology. We have a proposition for building an administrative building. We have a couple of propositions for sports on there. So we have a proposition to expand Lehman and Johnson High School varsity stadiums to allow varsity games there. That's up to the voters whether they all want to do that or not. The previous idea was to build a central stadium. And then also, because we're going to have like 6 or 7 schools easily in the future. Here's a question right here. Is the district at capacity at each of the existing schools? So that's a great question. We're at capacity at some of the schools. We're trying to build the school in a subdivision called Sunfield, which is a very growing subdivision. Now the schools in those areas, such as Pfluger and what's the name of the other school? Tom Green Elementary. Those are very, very packed, especially Tom Green. Tom Green is really under a lot of stress because, one, there's so many subdivisions in that area that are being built. We have Nagley Elementary right now that's that's basically near capacity, is going to go over capacity pretty quick. So that's another school that we're actually expanding. We're not in that school zone for now. We're adding more space if the bond passes. We'll add more space at Nagley. Nagley was actually built smaller than a lot of the other schools. And so we'll be adding capacity there if the bond proposition A passes. We'll add capacity. Camino Real is also encountering issues with crowding there too. They're getting more and more people, and we're going to have a lot of pressure in that area pretty soon because of increasing enrollment. There's a lot of homes that are selling within Hays CISD that, despite the pandemic, we're selling homes. We're not selling homes, but homes are selling like crazy still. People want to move in this area. Compared to other areas, it's still affordable. Though, the home prices are really, really going up. But you're seeing over there, like in the subdivisions like Six Creeks, for example, up there in part of Kyle, they're really getting bigger and bigger. You're seeing that a lot of those homes that are selling very easily, and there's waiting lists for homes that are being built out there. People are trying to move in here because they want to be in this school district. So that's putting pressure on schools like Kyle Elementary, on Wallace Middle School, for example. Barden is going to get some pressure too because of increasing enrollment. Now, if you want to see some really detailed information on enrollment, you can see a little bit of it at haycisd.net/bond2021. We have some enrollment information there. And then we have a lot of enrollment information at our bond committee website, which is haycisd.net/FBOC, haycisd.net/FBOC. At that particular site, we keep meeting minutes of the information that the bond committee gets to make recommendations to the school board as to what should be on a bond. Oh, and by the way, That's, I think, is something interesting. So we have a bond committee that helps us decide what should be on a bond, and it's working a little bit different than it used to in the past. So I don't know if you're interested or not, but I think it's interesting. So we used to have two committees. We had a committee that recommended what should be on a bond, and then we had a committee that was an oversight committee that looked at what we did when we were implementing the bond and helped provide oversight and recommendations to the school board about that. Well, a few years ago, those two committees were merged into one committee. And so the FBOC took over both duties. They're doing the recommendation of what's on the bond and the recommendation of what to do, on recommendations on how to keep the bond implementing with fidelity with the intent of what the school board had intended and what the taxpayers had intended. Personally, I prefer to have a lot of people involved in those decisions, so I prefer to set two separate committees. But the school board decided they wanted, the majority of the school board decided they wanted just one committee and reduce the number of people that are actually within that process. I'm me, as you probably know from watching all these videos, I like a lot of public input and I like a lot of people participating in the process. So I prefer to have two committees. But, I think that measure passed 5-2. So that's why that changed. But we still have a lot of people obviously involved in this process to help us determine what should be on a bond. And another thing that I think is interesting, and I get asked about this from time to time too, is how do we decide at Hays CISD what should be on a bond? As I said, we have this committee that's made out of citizens that have been appointed by the school board, and they make a recommendation to us. But before that happens, the superintendent looks at the needs of the district, and he creates a list of the needs of the district, and he provides it to the bond committee. The bond committee goes through that. The bond committee goes through that, and will determine what should be on the proposition. So they'll ask the superintendent for justifications of the things that are proposed by the superintendent. They'll ask for more information. They'll ask questions about why he feels this is important versus this is important. The other thing that we do too is we make sure that the bond committee has some non-voting members that are administrators, and those administrators are people that represent different sections of the school district. So curriculum people, we have people from public maintenance, for example, and so we have all those people on there, and they also act as resources. What is the amount of the 2021 proposed bond? You know what? I thought I had the paper with me. I don't want to give a figure because I don't want to be wrong, but it's over 100 mil there, and the exact amount is at haycisd.net/bond 2021. So I'm very careful to give, every time I give the amount, I give the exact amount, and I thought I had it printed out here, and I don't. So it's there at haycisd.net/bond 2021. Sorry about not having the exact amount with me right here. Needless to say, it's really expensive. But I think you're going to find that the board very deliberately looked at everything that we wanted to put on the bond, and we debated what we wanted to be on there. There's some things that didn't make the bond. Some board members wanted some things in the bond, other board members didn't, so some things did not make the bond. But essentially, most of the things that were recommended by the committee did make the bond. By the way, another thing that I think is pretty cool, and one of the things that this district does real well, is we put information about the last final vote that the bond committee does before they send the bond to the board. So the bond committee actually runs through the whole bond, and they go item by item, and they say whether they approve that item or not. And we actually capture the percentage of people who voted yes or no for a particular item, and that's part of the minutes of the FBOC, which you could get at haycisd.net/bond 2020. Oh, haycisd.net/FBOC. Okay. Oh, by the way, there's another election that's going on simultaneously with the bond. As part of the school district too, we election process, we have 2 school board positions that are open that are part of the 2021 election. So you can get information about the school board positions that are up for election at hayescisd.net/bond/election 2021. See, follows a pattern. And you can see we have an at-large position that's open, and we have position number 3. So if you're in district number 3, which is basically like Amberwood, Indian Paintbrush, East Buda, that area, if Sunfield, for example, if you live in Sunfield, you'll vote on District 3, and Sunfield is where the new school is proposed to be. So District number 3 is up, and the at-large position is up. So the at-large position is the position that Mr. McManus holds, and Mr. McManus filed for re-election, and he's running against Danya Curry. You may know her because she used to be a teacher at Lehman. And then another gentleman, I believe, I'm not sure how to pronounce his name, Bert Agwin, is running also for that large position. And then for district number 3, Dr. Michael Sanchez decided not to run again. So a person named Courtney Runkle filed to run, and another person named Richard Cronshey filed to run also. So we have those 2 people that are running for District 3 and 3 people that are running for the at-large position. So that's what's going on at Hays CISD. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to get more information about what's going on with the district, please consider subscribing to my newsletter, Willie for Education, WILLIE, the number 4 education.com. I have a newsletter that I put out via email that has a lot of information about what's going on in the district. So if you'd like to keep up with that, please consider subscribing to that email newsletter, and I'll be happy to send you information about what's going on. Usually do a little bit of info on upcoming board meetings. I do info about major things that are going on in the district. So like the bond, for example, will definitely be part of the newsletter, and lots of other things in there too. So if you want to keep up with Hays CISD, subscribe to my newsletter at willieforeducation.com, WILLIE, the number 4 education.com. So hope you enjoyed this. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.